meeting of the Raleigh Historic Commission. This is the business meeting, and glad to see all the faces. I won't say bright, shiny. The people are struggling for their coffee. I can see that. Would the staff call the roll, please?
Nick Fountain.
Here.
Kay Webb.
Here.
Katie Pate.
Here.
Travis Bailey. Ian Dunn.
Here.
Rashay Height.
Here. Here. Sorry.
Heather Leah.
Here.
Harold Millett.
Here.
Janine McAuliffe is excused. John Reese.
Here.
Susan Singer.
Here.
Gaston Williams.
Here. Okay, great. There's a series of consent items, and I'll entertain a combined motion to approve the agenda and the minutes from the March 16, 2021 meeting. Kay Webb makes that motion. John Reese seconds the motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Raise your right hand so I can see the hands. All right, the motion carried unanimously. Gaston, I hear you too. So that carried, and now we'll move to the UDO reviews. The only item on the agenda is 419 North Person Street. You all may remember that we had deferred that matter. I will report to you that it is actually on the COA agenda for this week. I see no reason to have a discussion about it today. My suggestion would be that that item be deferred until, let's say, the July meeting, and assuming the COA process goes like everyone would hope, then that matter can probably be concluded and closed out at that time. But in any event, I don't see any reason to spend time on it today. Could I have a motion to defer the matter? John Reese moves to defer. Rashay seconds motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Raise your hand. Motion carries. All right, I hear you, Gaston. Travis, good to see you. And so that motion carries, and that is off the agenda till July, and perhaps at that time it'll be a dead letter and no longer relevant or necessary. So then we'll move on to action items, which is item 4 on the agenda, the demolition by neglect procedure. Tanya, can you and staff refresh our recollection about that item?
Absolutely. So the current demolition by neglect procedure we have was written and last revised in 2003, and it what it doesn't do is make it clear that the procedure, let me back up. So the procedure is written is with the assumption that there is a neighborhood association always involved. So it was revised, brought it back last time, and then there's yet another tweaked version to make the procedure more broadly applicable to any property, whether it's in a historic overlay district or Raleigh Historic Landmark, and whether or not there's a neighborhood association. So identification, I can show it on the screen, but it was available for you to look at. Each step is broken down to make it clear whether there's a neighborhood association or just a citizen involved, and it goes through the steps. The property is identified. An advice letter is sent to property owners either by the neighborhood association or by RHDC. They're given 6 months to make some repairs. Depending on who the letter came from, the condition will either be monitored by a commissioner volunteer or the neighborhood. If they are making substantive repairs per the list of standards, which I've attached to be included with the procedure, then all is good. If there are still deficiencies on that list of standards, then it'll officially be before RHDC for an evaluation. And that's usually in that case. I didn't say how that happens, but y'all typically send that to the COA committee per the bylaws.
Right.
And then the rest is the same.
All right, Tony, this was brought up, we had a draft, I want to say 1 meeting or 2 meetings ago.
Last month. Mhm.
Yeah. Have there been any edits made since then? Is
Oh,
that
yeah,
the same?
absolutely. Yeah, I made changes to that and I sent the draft out to, there were a handful of commissioners at the last meeting who said they wanted to take a look at it in advance, and they did. The only
Right.
comment, so yes, revisions were made to add clarity.
Okay, so that brings us up to date, folks. Are there, so it's up for discussion and approval or action. And are there questions or comments from members of the commission? Are you prepared to proceed with a motion to approve that procedure so that we have a better working one going forward? All right, Kay Webb,
I move approval of the demo by neglect procedure.
thank you for that. Is there a second from John Reese? Is there open for discussion? Y'all content? All right, I'll call the question. Verche, you had a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I know I didn't get to reply through email or anything, but
If you'll speak up, I can't hear you very well, Verche.
I'm getting feedback too. Never mind. I was just going to say that I think that the document is much clearer. The process is really clear. It's seen a lot of progress over the past month, so I think it looks really good.
Okay, good. Good. Anything else? I don't want to go too fast, but if we're ready, we'll keep moving. All right, there's a motion on the floor to approve the procedure. Further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion for approval, signify by saying aye, raise your hand. And the motion carries. Gaston, I hear you. Thank you for that. Motion carries, that's unanimous. And that item is tended to. And the next item for follow-up is rezoning cases. If staff want to bring us up to speed on where are we on that? Is there anything that we need to hear?
Colette was going to give a quick update on cases.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. I do have a couple updates for some of the recent cases that you have reviewed. So at the April 6th City Council meeting, the case Z23, which was the 220 East Morgan Street, the parking lot that was behind Marbles across the street from several landmarks. That case was approved. At the same City Council meeting, April 6th, they deferred the Z4820, which was the series of properties on South Bloodworth Street, the 4 houses at the corner of Bloodworth and Cabarrus. That was deferred to today's meeting. The public hearing is closed, so it's on today's City Council agenda, and they can either choose to make a decision or continue to defer. Also on today's City Council agenda is 314 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, the stone house that we discussed a couple weeks ago, and that is to set a public hearing date.
All right, does anyone have questions for Colette on these matters? John Reese?
Colette, can you help us understand why the Bloodworth project was deferred, or do you know?
I'm not entirely sure. I didn't hear the discussion. I know that there was a concern from a property owner, and council wanted to make sure that that property owner's concerns were evaluated and that they would have an opportunity to move their, I think, I'm not sure if it's a business somewhere suitable. I do not know if there were other discussions about aspects of the case.
Okay. Any other questions? Sounds like they're moving mostly the way we would have thought. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the notification of elections. And for that purpose, I'll call on Kay Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to the bylaws, the nominations committee is presenting a slate of officers today, which will be voted on at the May meeting. The slate is as follows: for the position of Secretary Treasurer, Katie Kate; for the position of Vice Chair, Janine McCullough; for the position of Chair, Gaston Williams.
All right. Well, I congratulate all of these candidates, and the campaigning will be something to see, no doubt. And we will be holding our breath at the next meeting to see how the election turns out.
Mr. Chairman, you
Yes,
want to
ma'am.
ask for nominations from the floor?
Yes, ma'am, I will do that. Would anyone like to nominate others so we can have campaign signs and everything? I see no hands going up, a number of smiles and some sighs of relief on the faces of various folk. And so I'll, without objection, I'll declare the nominations closed, and we will move forward next month. So that's where, now we'll say okay, maybe we'll talk about nominate when we get the nominations under committee reports, but it ended up to Kay, and we drew in Gaston on the nomination committee. We talked about, we actually have a large number of people desiring to be appointed, more than I can recall. I don't know whether that's because of the hidden history and some of the communication work that's been done, or whether there's been controversy that has generated attention. But anyway, we really do have a significant list of very capable people, and so at the appropriate time, we are hoping to take numbers of those persons. Not everyone can be presented to the council to fill the 2 vacancies, but we're going to take some of those people and put them hopefully on various committees, which will add additional clout and strength to the various committees, and also keep those interested persons involved until such time as there is a vacancy that matches their skill set. There were persons with preservation background, persons that had rehabbed houses before, persons who'd served on other commissions in other cities. There were persons with archaeology background, all grades of talent, and so I will leave it at that. And we'll move on to the, okay, unless there's something else you want to say, we can talk about the, we don't need, I guess, to talk about the committees right now, and then the committee will forward nominations for the 2 vacancies to the city council, and because we've been to work on that process as well, which is one of the reasons you see that slight smile of relief on Kay Webb's face. So, of that, we'll turn to the RHDC annual report and the work programs. You all should have had a chance to look at that. Would staff care to explain and remind everybody how that process works and what are the purposes of this endeavor?
Yes, sir. So one of your responsibilities as the commission is to provide an annual report to city council. as with many, we did not do last year. Wasn't a lot happening last year. So this annual report will technically be for the fiscal years of from 2019 through whatever we get to of this year, 2021. You also have to bring forward your work plan to City Council for approval. So what I've provided to y'all is a draft of the annual report. I'd like for you to take a look at it, see if there's any activity that happened that I missed. Hopefully I got everything on there. If I check and make sure I portrayed everything correctly as well. And if you're okay with it, then I send it to our communications team within the department, and it gets formatted into a more graphically digestible document. And then once it's been formatted, I bring it to y'all for the formal adoption before taking it to City Council. Hey, good to see you, Gaston. And I see Heather's hand.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw that it's 2018, 2018, and I just sent you an email on it. But I noticed it didn't encompass any of our social media growth from the past 2 years.
I do need the numbers, so I will be frank, and I was adding things at the last minute the day before I went on vacation. So I there should be something in there, social media ... Oh yeah, there are lots of ellipses. So yes, like the historic cards, we need to talk about that. So absolutely. So if you could get numbers to me,
Yeah.
that would be awesome.
I will, because I want to say that it mentions our Twitter, but our social media, we've reached over 100,000 people this year alone. Doesn't include the year before. So I want to make sure that I saw we had reached 1,000 people on Twitter, and I'm sure that's from 2 years ago. So I definitely wanted to make sure that had been reflected. So I will send you. I know I send a monthly report. I'm going to go back and look at those monthly an annual report of our social.
Yeah, if you could, that was great. I tried looking at the reports that you've sent, but for some reason, all the links I have keep taking me to the current document instead of past ones. So your assistance would be really appreciated on that.
Okay, I'll do that.
And on that line, I think we need really every committee to look at their piece, and let's be sure that it describes there are two pieces of this. One is what we have done, and the other is what we plan to do. And we need to get both pieces and remember that this is partly to pat ourselves on the back, but more importantly to educate council about what all we have done and what we're trying to accomplish. And it's one of the few chances in the course of a year that we get to step forward and cause the council to actually focus on this side of civic life in Raleigh. And so I would ask everybody on each committee to focus on it. Tanya, what is the timeline? When do you need to have whatever comments anybody wants to make?
Sooner is better. I would say within the week would be like by next Tuesday would be good, because the goal would be to have it at the June council meeting before UNK roll off.
All right.
That would be great.
So,
The other piece that I will work with you on, Nick, is the sort of intro letter is typically a letter from the chair, excuse me, and that is about, what happened before. And then we started doing a couple reports ago, doing a state of preservation, or whatever you want to call it, which sort of gives a sort of a brief summary about, that sort of talks a little bit about why the work program is what it is. And so that will also need to be drafted
Okay.
I will send that
So
around.
folks, if the goal is to have the comments by a week from today, then that says that there's no reason to let anything get set on top of this on your desk. It's going to have to stay right out on top or it won't happen timely. And you won't get the city support that we might hope to get. Gaston Williams. You're muted.
I know document version is a bit of a complication. We got a lot of input from people. How do you want us to give you input? What format, what way? Tom?
However you want. If you want, I can send this out as a Word document. If that's easier for you.
Yeah, I'd like
You
to
have,
yeah.
yeah,
If you'd send me a Word. And
I can do that.
assume you're tracking on, right?
Yep, I will do that. Other people, if you prefer to make notes, scan, take a picture and send it that way, I can handle that too.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, this is as I said, the best moment for us to get the attention of the council in a political year and move the needle in one direction or another. And so we can't give them a book. They won't read a book, but we do have to make sure that everything in there is, and I'm counting on city staff to make it graphic and so that it will be eye-catching at the end. But let's work on that. It is not something to be passed over lightly. And yeah, Tanya, we will get together on what the cover letter and the like needs to be, as well as, and then when we get to the city council part, we can talk about what highlights need to be addressed there as well. So, okay. All right. And one more thing, look at the work program, because if there's some glaring hole in what we ought to be doing that we can reasonably accomplish, even if we didn't get it all done in the upcoming year, let's be sure that that work list, again, is generally by committee or by goals or by areas of concern. So look at that too, if you will. This is a chance to guide things. I'm sure staff has pulled that out of our retreat and out of discussions and out of what they already knew without our help. But we should look at it because, again, that's going to be a guiding document for the next year. Okay, so that we'll move on then to committee reports. I'll go back to Kay Webb on nominations. Kay, you want to say anything else, or what all did we forget to talk about?
Nothing further. I think it's all been covered.
All right, that's a fine report. Let's see, Ian Dunn, research.
Morning, everyone. We are in the early stages of possibly designating 516 East Jones Street. It's Ann Robertson's house in Oakwood. It's one of the oldest houses in Oakwood, but that's very early at this point, so I'll probably have more later on. The big project we're working on is the update to the Raleigh Architectural Survey. We've submitted a grant to SHPO. The general scope is to identify properties not surveyed in the 2006 and 2017 survey, with an emphasis on historic districts related to African American history since 1945, to survey individual properties associated with the civil rights movement, and to survey properties associated with African American architects and builders. In order to bolster this research, we're working to facilitate a task force or committee, something of that nature, comprised of the research committee and historical groups, African American historical groups, or individuals in the African American community, to sort of get all sides. So those are the major things we're working on.
Well, that's a great report and an ambitious set of goals, I must say. And when do you find out if the grant from SHPO comes through?
Fairly soon, Tanya, is that correct?
June. So the grants committee meets in May, and they hope to let folks know of the awards in June.
Tanya, who is the person within this assembly that is supposed to be looking out for possible grants that we could get for things?
Staff keeps an eye out based on what projects y'all are looking at. I mean, there's not, it would be, depending on the project, it could be, there's not one person within the commission. Most of our grants that we receive have been research based, and those either come from the National Park Service through the State Historic Preservation Office, or from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. They also have grants available for community outreach as well. And so staff through the city, we have access to a subscription grants database that we search and look for grants, as projects come forward.
So I asked that question, folks, because I think that we need to be on the lookout for other pots of money, whether we're dealing with the website, some other kind of community outreach, whether it's this sort of history and research that needs doing. There is money out there. You just have to hit the right pigeonhole to get it. And so I raise that partly because I know that Kay and I will be going off, and some of the rest of you need to be remembering there's money around sometimes. So Heather, how about a report on community awareness?
Yeah, it was a good month. We reached a lot of people on social media. I'd say we reached over 30,000 people this month. It was a big month because we, worked with the local businesses and juice out of that. A lot of people were really interested in the cards, and we were featured on WRAL TV, not just the website, but we had a segment about it. And then also Carol, kind of random.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, let me see if I pick up my phone, if that helps. And then Carolina Parent Mag kind of stepped out and did an article about us too. Sorry, I can't tell if I'm breaking. Am I still breaking up? Here?
Chair Fountain, I believe it might be your microphone that's picking up that feedback. So if you'd like to mute while others are presenting, that might help.
Does that help? Oh, that sounds like that's helping a lot. Okay, good. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, it was a great month. I want to thank everybody who helped. I know I sent out emails, but thank you all so much. We managed to get out 400 cards and 400 goodie bags stuffed, and 400 bags delivered to multiple businesses around the city. We were able to work and collaborate with 4 locally owned businesses that are in historic buildings, which was really awesome. I know the Raleigh Times in particular, I guess Empire Properties, they were extremely happy. They were very excited about being part of the project. So I think we've maybe made some friendships there that we could reach out to in the future and maybe do more things like this. Especially during a time of COVID, it's difficult to, find outreach things that we can do where we normally would be going and tabling and being at events or giving tours, and these are things we can't do. So it kind of forced us to come up with something different, but it went really well, and there was very high demand for the cards. We even got some people emailing us asking to have them mailed to them. So yeah, it was good, and it was a kind of a first time trial and error sort of thing. So I think it especially went well given that. And like I said, our social media did really well this month too. So. That's it.
I think you're muted,
You're
Nick.
on mute.
I don't usually mute me, but I got worried about feedback and I muted me, so obviously I promptly forgot. So the question was, what now?
Good question.
Yeah, so we actually talked about that during the meeting, and we've decided that it was a successful enough project. Obviously, we took a big bite as kind of our first, kind of it being our first time. We really kick it off with something big. In the future, we're thinking what we'd like to do is continue making maybe one card every 2 to 3 months. I think we decided maybe on every quarter. Working with one business, we can keep up that collaboration as something that we regularly do. Collaborate with one local business that historically owned building. I think there's a lot of power in there's a lot of people that go out and they're eating dinner in a historic building, don't know the history of the building sitting right there. And then they're given a card that's got a little bit of information literally about the place they're in right now. So I think that there's a power to that direct engagement. I think that feedback's being picked up and I can hear myself.
Okay.
So I think we're gonna try to do one card every 3 months, at least to start, and team up with a local business. And that way we do benefit from that business's foot traffic and their following. So on social media, we kind of benefit from their following and they benefit from ours. This should help the community as much as it helps us. And we get to actually, highlight a local business and they kind of get some of that free marketing from being in a building through what they're doing. So probably once every 3 months. And then for Preservation Month, we are hoping to do a Raleigh history quiz on social media, which hopefully will be pretty engaging too. Kind of get people to directly engage in how much they know about Raleigh. Really cool old pictures and really work with the archives and collaborate there.
Well, thanks to the committee and thanks to everybody that pitched in and helped to get that project over the starting line and get rolling. John Reese, you had your hand up a minute ago.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up something that may be a daunting task, but it fits within community awareness. Is there some way we can reach out to realtors and to neighborhoods some way, or the neighbors in a specific historic district neighborhood, to let them know that they are in a historic district, and like a welcome letter or some kind of something or other? Because as I understand it from many reports, anecdotal, realtors never tell folks who are buying a house in a historic district that they're buying a house in a historic district. And it really comes as a like, what did I buy? How do I work with this? And I think is an outreach thing to let them know that we are here to help them. And that realtors, maybe we pass it off to all the realtors so that they know that they need to kind of share that information with new buyers or new residents or even a welcome wagon kind of letter, something that we can reach out to let folks know we've got your back, but we're also concerned about how do you do that.
Let me ask Tanya to review with some of the things that we've tried previously, because we are aware that with every new group that moves in, there's an educational effort that needs to take place every time and doesn't always. And then that's why we periodically see these after the fact applications in the COA process, or we'll see cases come through where they're citing to something that got bootlegged and we never knew about it, and we wouldn't have approved it if we had had a chance. So Tanya and Colette, Aaron, y'all want to talk about this concern because it overlaps, I think, COA and community awareness.
Sure, Tanya here. I think one of the issues is that we have not sent a newsletter in a while. We've had conversations about whether or not we should be mailing something. I think it would be very easy for us to do another, letter, maybe make it a little bit more attractive and seem like it's not just, junk mail, and send it out to all the overlay districts. Over the years, we have looked at doing an education program for realtors. I have personally gone to some of the larger firms, I guess, and given a presentation. The challenge is there are so many of them there. They are legally required to say they're in a historic district, but we can't control that they say what it means or if it's a, for sale by owner. But certainly doing another a mailing out there to remind folks is something that we can do. It is definitely a tricky matter. I will say I do not believe that the number of after the fact cases has been increasing substantially over the years. I think there might be, a very small percentage more, but it's from, in nearly 14 years I've been with the city, it's about the same. We get people, they either buy it from owner or they hear what they want to hear or they forget. But yeah, it's a good reminder, John.
Gaston?
I just think it's a great idea, John, because maybe we can work it out so that it's a part of their annual training or go to the bigger firms that are doing the highest volume in the area in which the houses are being closed. Maybe some kind of real, for lack of a better word, very abbreviated introduction to it, and maybe some kind of perky little video on our website that gives detail, and it's the written materials all rolled into one. I think that's something that the Community Awareness Committee really could construct all the talent we have on that group. I think they have to meet every once in a while, but they may have continuing education, or at least they have to comply with certain rules. And I'm thinking we might see if we can sneak in there with a moment for history or whatever you want to call it.
I'll refer the idea to community awareness, but I'll also ask that we'll add it on the tail end and see if there's time to talk about it at the end of COA on what kinds of education we think are particularly needed. And the COA meets on Thursday this week. With that, we'll turn to Dorothea Dix Park. That's one of our ad hoc committees. And let's see, I'm going to hand the ball to staff to talk about what we have been doing. We have had a couple of meetings on that.
Sure, everybody, this is Erin. So we have been meeting, had a few meetings in this calendar year. Most recently, earlier this month, we were able to hear from Jenny Harper, former commissioner and current community committee member, Dix Park Community Committee, which is about a group of 40 people that were appointed to help oversee the development of the master plan for the park as a public committee. So Jenny reported the progress within that committee. I believe they're meeting again tonight, but they've apparently taken the approach of breaking up into smaller committees themselves to try to tackle different aspects of the park. So I think Jenny is going to be on what is essentially the committee that deals with the buildings there. So they've made some progress. We're just continuing to monitor the development of the park. We haven't heard anything more on Plaza in Play or, later iterations of the master plan. We're trying to find a way that we can be helpful. It does sound like that there is a lot of opportunity for volunteers to get out there and help provide city tours of the campus. Potentially, there might be other programming that we could volunteer for to kind of get our foot in the door and make sure we're engaged as the development continues. Nothing too specific to bring up this time around. We're just paying attention. Nick, is there anything specific you can think of we need to mention?
No, but on the tour thing, obviously, if we were involved in giving tours, we'd probably be able to talk more about the significance of some of the buildings that may not be getting done in the current system. Otherwise, we've been watching each pod is developed, and they haven't really tackled the central core of the campus where the main buildings of concern to us are. And we're trying to match them stride for stride so that as we get to those places, we are prepared. We could use some more people on these committees than Jenny and what's the name from PNC. But if we need more people who are ready to step in on those things, because it's going to be a long-term project, and I would urge consideration by everybody on that. It's going to go a long time, and we will need to be matching them stride for stride to keep the historic piece toward the forefront, lest it turn into Disney World. Okay, so now I'll move to the Lustron House, and I can tell you that we are meeting again. We've been meeting about every 2 weeks. And we're meeting right after this meeting, and we're working toward moving ahead with moving money around in loan agreements so that we can go ahead and put the exterior walls up on the building, which right now looks more like an erector set than anything else. And so it's got to be, we got to get where it will market. And so we're moving rapidly on that part, and we'll probably have more to report next month after this committee meeting after today. On COA, there's plenty. And we've got a number that have been carried out. For everybody on the committee, you know, we've got several that have been carried over that have got to be dealt with. And so we'll probably have a lengthy meeting on the 22nd. So it'll be a RHDC week for a number of us. So with that, I'll ask if there are comments from the public. Does anybody want to be heard? Anybody? Tanya,
No one
signed up?
No one signed up to speak.
Okay, great. Are there other things from the commissioners that need to be reported that haven't been covered in committee?
I just have one question. It's kind of for Verche. What time is it?
Yeah, well, look at, if every clock is right twice a day, her odds are so much better than everybody else.
I love it. I can tell the time all over.
Yeah, but apparently you can't. None of them are Raleigh.
Oh, what?
None of the times are Raleigh.
Ollie.
Oh, okay.
But some of the batteries, I haven't changed them all yet. So.
Very, very nice background. You get the background of the day award.
Report from staff.
Nothing that you haven't already heard.
Okay. Katie Pate, anything you need to say on behalf of the Treasury?
We have no new significant updates to report this month.
All right. Anything else for the good of historic preservation before we adjourn this meeting? Anything else? All right. Listen, thanks all of you for rolling out early and getting here. And on that note, Tanya, is there any movement toward resumption of some live meetings in some form?
No, sir, I've heard nothing beyond that survey I sent out via email. Or that I asked y'all about.
All right, I know nothing. Was that Colonel Klink or something? Okay, great meeting, folks. Good to see your faces. Maybe we'll get together soon. And I'll remind you that we're gonna have something at my house on May 18th. Consumables and appropriately distanced as necessary. So keep that evening on your calendar. Y'all take care. Make it a good day. Bye now. Meeting adjourned.